So, good morning everyone. My name is Kent Anthony C. Apari from the Group 1, and I am here to tackle about on how to carry out the following maintenance in piston, overhaul, and main propulsion engine. So, the frequency of piston drawing out check varies according to the daily maintenance, especially the lubricating oil, control, and overload. Overload and excessively load, therefore, the supervisor is required to decide the proper frequency. However, the initial overhaul and check should be performed at the time mentioned in maintenance manual, which is around 8,000 to 10,000 running hours. From then on, increase of blow by and an increase in lubricating oil consumption. When the lubricating oil consumption has become twice initial value, overhaul and clean the piston and replace the piston rings. Overhauling procedure. Screw the lifting eye bolt into the piston and lift it by 20 to 30 mm. Loosen the connecting rod bolts with the specified disassembling tool and then remove the bolts and metal cap. Set the piston at a position of about 30 degrees after TDC. Eliminate the carbon from the upper part of the cylinder liner. Remove the disassembling tool and protection ring. Set the piston of a position about 80 to 90 degrees before the TDC. Prepare the tools as per the manual. Place the protection ring drawing out tool on the piston. Place the tool so that in outer wrapper face towards the piston and do not allow it to make contact with the cylinder liner. Attach the liner retaining implement 2 and spacer 3 and lock with the cylinder head tightening nut. Turn the flywheel and remove the protection ring. And lastly, remove the upper metal and draw out the piston. Thank you.
So, good day everyone. I'm Engine Cadet Sabati, so I will report the tools to be used. So, first is short pattern stubby box and wrench set 1 port to 3 port. The next is long pattern box and wrench set up to one size. Then 60-degree double offset box and short pattern wrench set snap on makes an excellent set under something necessary for tight fits. So next is octo knife, angle blades and flat blades for gasket scraping. The next is cutter K polar tool. The next is duck bell and needle nose pliers. The next is small set of snips. Then crescent F wrench with 2 capacity. Next is 1 port drive, 12 PT shallow socket set and drivers with extension set. The next is tray 8 drive 12 PT shallow socket set and drivers with extension set. Then assorted screwdrivers. Then Allen key set and brush hammer. Next is soft mallet. Next is cleaning brushes. Next is drift of various size to help with assemble. And the next is following procedure has to be followed when opening the liner, common for all. Then first is inform company and take permission. And second is take immobilization certificate from port state control. Then the third is read the manual and have a toolbox meeting with everyone involved in the job. Discuss the complete procedure. And the fourth is prepare important tools and spares required for overhauling liner as given in the manual. Then fifth is prepare risk assessment and make sure all personnel safety equipment are used. Then six is shut starting air for main engine and display placards. The next is engage turning gear. Then 8 is open indicator cocks for all the cylinders. And 9 is stop main lube oil pump and switch off the breaker. And 10 is once the engine jacket temperature comes down, shut the inlet water valve for the unit to be overhauled. The next is keep other units in jacket preheating system to maintain the jacket temperature. The next is drain the jacket water of the concerned unit from exhaust valve and liner. Then next is shut the fuel oil to the particular unit hose liner is to be removed. Then next is dismount the cylinder using indicated lifting tools. Next is discard the sealing ring from the top of the cylinder liner. Next is turn the piston down far enough to make it possible to grind away the wear ridges at the top of the liner with a hand grinder. And last is dismount the piston by following the procedures given in manual. So piston overhaul of diesel engine. So first is piston overhauling when the piston is overhauled as per the planned maintenance or due to breakdown reasons. The liner ovality must be checked and liner surface must be inspected for various defects. And second is overhauling schedule of liner. So the normal overhauling schedule of the liner will depend on the efficient operation for the engine, its operator, type of fuel used in the engine, and how all the important engine parameters, temperature, pressure, etc. are maintained by the operator. So next is if the liner is working fine, the planned maintenance schedule is followed and the liner will be checked and gauges after the completion of certain running hours as prescribed by the engine markers.
Good morning everyone, I am Cadet Gilbert Sirabor. So, taking crankshaft deflection for diesel engine. We take crankshaft deflection, make sure that the crank runs to maintain proper balance. So you may know the engine crankshaft comprises of the journal, crank pin, and the crank webs. These are all supported by the main bearings via the journals. Therefore, as the engine runs, due to some friction between the bearing and the crank pin, the bearing wear out and maintain imbalance across the length of the crankshaft. When this occurs, you experience high reading, which will indicate the actual position, either closed or open. Well, as I said earlier, to make this article short and understandable, I will like to explain how to take deflection reading of your main or auxiliary engine crankshaft. How to take crankshaft deflection reading? First, set your dial indicator to 0. Next, open all crankcase covers. Next, engage turning gear. Next, switch your turning gear to manual if in auto. Next, turn the engine wheel the crank wheel horizontal point to enable you to place dial indicator of a proper point. After placing the dial injector, check to make sure it is 0. Set again required, then tap port side. Take your readings between negative 0.01 to negative 0.35 and positive 0.01 to positive 0.035. See manufacturer's recommendations. Next, turn back to initial point, port side or starboard side horizontal, depending on which side you started. Take horizontal position reading. Turn to the button. Also take readings. Keep turning still starboard side horizontal, take readings. Continue turning still top starboard side vertical, then take final readings. Thank you.
Good day, sir. Good day, classmates. I am here to report about the crankshaft, checking the crankshaft deflections of diesel engine. Well, check at the crankshaft deflections to make sure that cranks runs and maintains proper balance. As you may know, the engine's crankshaft comprises the journal, crankpin, and crank, which they're all supported by the main bearings via the journal. Therefore, the engine runs due to some frictions between the bearings, the crank. The bearings wear out the maintenance balance across the length of the crankshaft. When this occurs, you experience high readings which will indicate the actual positions, either closed or open. Will the said earlier, to make the article short understandable, I would like to explain how the crankshafts are. This is the example of crankshaft. 1. Change your dial indicators to 0. And number 2, open the crankcase cover. And number 3, engage turning gear. Next, switch your turning gear to manual if in auto. And the next, turn the engines will be cranks with horizontal to the point to enable to place dial indicators at the proper point. After placing the dial indicator, checks to make sure it's at to 0. Set again if required, then to tap port side or TP. Check your readings between negative 0.1 to 0.35 and added to 0.1 to 0.035. See the manufacturer recommendations. And the next is turn back into the initial point P. The point P is a port side or starboard side horizontal, depending on which sides of started. Checks horizontal positions readings. And the next is turn to the buttons B.
So I'm engine cadet Dumugho, and this diagram shows the mechanical cell where it form
from and where it is belong, and before to spare or fix and drain. So di lang ito makita ang mga asa nagposisyon ng mga ang mechanical seal. So dili dapat sa kanang part na yeah. So next, selling points. Well, two selling points in a seal design are simple static seals that seal between the rotating and stationary members. Need a little more consideration. This primary seal is the basis of all seal design and essential to its effectiveness. The primary seal is essentially a spring-loaded vertical bearings, which is the extreme flat faces, one fixed, one rotating, running against each other. The seal surface are pushed together using a combination and hydraulic force from seal fluid and spring force from the seal design. In this way, a seal is formed to prevent process leaking between the rotating shaft and stationary areas of the pump. So, dire na to kita ang sa sealing point ang mga kanang mga muliking gani diha dire ta magamit ang mga seal para dili siya mag-leaking. So the fluid film. In the most mechanical seal, the faces are kept lubricated by maintaining a thin film of fluid between the seal faces. This film can either come from process fluid being pumped or from an external source. The need for a fluid film between the faces presents a design challenge, allowing sufficient lubricant to flow between the seal faces and without seal leaking. An acceptable amount of process fluid or allowing contaminants in between the faces that could damage the seal itself. This achieved by maintaining a faces gap between the faces that are large enough to allow a small amount of cleaning lubrication, but small enough to prevent contaminants from entering the gap between the seal faces. So that's all our report, and we are the group 1. Thank you.